How he that was left behind at Hypata did bring news concerning the robbery of Milo's house, came home, and declared to his company, that all the fault was laid to one Apuleius' charge. As soon as night was past, and the clear chariot of the sun had spread his bright beams on every coast, came one of the company of the thieves, for so his and their greeting together did declare, who at the first entry into the cave, after he had breathed himself, and was able to speak, told these tidings unto his companions in this sort. Sirs, as touching the house of Milo of Hypata, which we forcibly entreated and ransacked the last day, we may put away all fear and doubt nothing at all. For after that ye by force of arms had spoiled and taken away all things in the house, and returned hither into our cave, I, thrusting myself amongst the presa of the people, and shewing myself as though I were sad and sorrowful for the mischance, consulted with them for the bolting out of the matter, and devising what means might be wrought for the apprehension of the thieves, to the intent I might learn and see all that was done to make relation thereof unto you as you willed me. Insomuch that the whole fact at length by manifest and evident proofs as also by the common opinion and judgment of the people, was laid to one Lucius Apuleius charge as manifest author of this common robbery, who a few days before by false and forged letters and colored honesty, fell so far in favor with this Milo, that he entertained him into his house, and received him as a chief of his familiar friends, which Lucius after that he had sojourned there a good space, and won the heart of. Milo's maid, by feigned love, did thoroughly learn the ways and doors of all the house, and curiously viewed the coffers and chests, wherein was laid the whole substance of Milo, neither was there small cause given to judge him culpable, since as the very same night that this robbery was done he fled away, and could not be found in no place, and to the intent he might clean escape, and better prevent such as made Hew and Cree after him, he took his white horse and galloped away, and after this, his servant was found in the house, who, accused as accessory to the felony and escape of his master, was committed to the common gala, and the next day following was cruelly scourged and tormented till he was well nigh dead, to the intent he should confess the matter. But when they could reast or learn no such thing of him, yet sent they many persons after, towards Lucius Count Ray to inquire him out, and so to take him prisoner. As he declared these things, I did greatly lament with myself, to think of mine old and pristine estate, and what felicity I was sometimes in comparison to the misery that I presently sustained, being changed into a miserable asse. Then had I no small occasion to remember how the old and ancient writers did affirm, that fortune was stark blind without eyes, because she always bestoweth her riches upon evil persons, and fools, and chooseth or favoreth no mortal person by judgment, but is always conversant, especially with much as if she could see, she should most shun, and forsake, yea, and that which is more worse, she sheweth such evil or contrary opinions in men, that the wicked do glory with the name of good, and contrary the good and innocent be detracted and slandered as evil. Furthermore I, who by her great cruelty, was turned into a four-footed asse, in most vile and abject manner, yea, and whose estate seemed worthily to be lamented and pitied of the most hard and stony hearts, was accused of theft and robbing of my dear host Milo, which villainy might rather be called parricide than theft, yet might not I defend mine own cause or deny the fact any way, by reason I could not speak, howbeit at least my conscience should see me to accuse me by reason of silence. And again being enforced by impatience I endeavored to speak, and fain would have said, never did I that fact, and verily the first word, never, I cried out once or twice, somewhat handsome, but the residue I could in no wise pronounce, but still remaining in one voice, cried, never, 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 howbeit I settled my hanging lips as round as I could to speak the residue. But why should I further complain of the cruelty of my fortune, since as I was not much ashamed, by reason that my servant and my horse was likewise accused with me of the robbery. While I pondered with myself all these things, a great care came to my remembrance, touching the death which the thieves promised for me and the maiden, and still as I looked down to my belly, I thought of my poor gentlewoman that should be closed within me. And the thief which a little before had brought the false news against me, drew out of the skirt of his coat 1,000 crowns, which he had rifled from such as he met, and brought it into the common treasury. Then he carefully inquired how the residue of his companions did. To whom it was declared that the most valiant was murdered and slain in divers manners, whereupon he persuaded them to remit all their affairs a certain season, and to seek for other fellows to be in their places, that by the exercise of new lads, the terror of their martial band might be reduced to the old number, assuring them that such as were unwilling, might be compelled by menaces and threatenings, and such as were willing might be encouraged forward with reward. Further he said, that there were some, which, seeing the profit which they had, would forsake their base and servile estate, and rather be contented to live like tyrants amongst them. Moreover he declared, that for his part he had spoken with a certain tall man, a valiant companion, but of young age, stout in body, and courageous in fight, whom he had fully persuaded to exercise his idle hands, dull with slothfulness, to his greater profit, and, while he might, to receive the bliss of better fortune, and not to hold out his sturdy arm to beg for a penny, but rather to take as much gold and silver as he would. Then everyone consented, that he that seemed so worthy to be their companion, should be one of their company, and that they would search for others to make up the residue of the number, whereupon he went out, and by, returning again, brought in a tall young man, as he promised, to whom none of the residue might be compared, for he was higher than they by the head, and of more bigness in body. His beard began to burgen, but he was poorly apparelled, insomuch that you might see all his belly naked. As soon as he was entraden he said, God speed ye soldiers of Mars and my faithful companions, I pray you make me one of your band, and I will ensure you, that you shall have a man of singular courage and lively audacity, for I had rather receive stripes upon my back, than money or gold in my hands. And as for death, which every man doth fear, I say nothing at all, yet think you not that I am an abject or a beggar, neither judge you my virtue and prowess by ragged clothes, for I have been a captain of a great company, and subdued all the country of Macedonia. I am the renowned Ephemes the Thracian, whose name all countries and nations do so greatly fear. I am the son of Theron the noble the nourished with humane blood, entertained amongst the stoutest. Finally I am an heredar and follower of all my father's virtues, yet I lost in a short time all my company and all my riches, by one assault, which I made upon a factor of the prince, which sometime had been captain of 200 men, for fortune was clean against me. Hearken and I will tell you the whole matter. There was a certain man in the court of the emperor, which had many offices, and in great favor, who at last by the envy of divers persons, was banished away and compelled to forsake the court. His wife Platina, a woman of rare faith and singular shamefastness, having borne 10 children to her husband, despised all worldly pomp and delicacy, and determined to follow her husband, and to be partaker of his perils and danger, wherefore she cut off her hair, disguised herself like a man, and took with her all her treasure, passing through the hands of the soldiers, and the naked swords without any fear, whereby she endured many miseries, and was partaker of much affliction, to save the life of her husband, such was her love which she bare unto him. And when they had escaped many perilous dangers, as well by land as by sea, they went together towards Zacinthe, to continue there according as fortune had appointed. But when they were arrived on the sea coast of Actium, where we in our return from Macedon were roving about, when night came, they returned into a house not far distant from their ship, where they lay all night. Then we entreed in and took away all their substance, but verily we were in great danger, for the good matron perceiving us incontinently by the noise of the gate, went into the chamber, and called up every man by his name, and likewise the neighbors that dwelled round about, insomuch that by reason of the fear that every one was in, we hardly escaped away. But this most holy woman, faithful and true to her husband, as the truth must be declared, returned to Caesar, desiring his aid and puissance, and demanding vengeance of the injury done to her husband, who granted all her desire. Then went my company to rack, insomuch that every man was slain, so great was the authority and word of the prince. Howbeit, when all my band was lost, and taken by search of the emperor's army, I only stole away and delivered myself from the violence of the soldiers, for I clothed myself in a woman's attire, and mounted upon an asse that carried barley sheaves, and, passing through the middle of them all, I escaped away, because every one deemed that I was a woman by reason I lacked a beard. Howbeit I left not off for all this, nor did degenerate from the glory of my father, or mine own virtue, but freshly coming from the bloody skirmish, and disguised like a woman, I invaded towns and castles alone to get some prey. And therewithal he pulled out 2,000 crowns, which he had under his coat, saying, Hold here the dowry which I present unto you, hold eke my person, which you shall always find trusty and faithful, if you willingly receive me, and I will ensure you that in so doing, within short space I will make and turn this stony house of yours into gold. Then by and by every one consented to make him their captain, and so they gave him better garments, and threw away his old. When they had changed his attire, he embraced them one after another, then placed they him in the highest room of the table, and drunk unto him in token of good lucre.